Did you know that Boise home prices have continued to increase over the past year? Maybe not at double-digit crazy pace, but steady for sure. So let's unpack what this means for you as a buyer or you as a seller. And I'd love to hear your thoughts or questions on the market too, so be sure to drop them in the comments along the way. We are no longer experiencing the historically low inventory in the Boise market that we have over the past few years. But honestly, it still feels like it. With interest rates still high, buyers are slow to jump into the market. And when they are willing to dip their toe in the water, they're struggling to find what they're looking for out there in the market. It feels like buyers are having to compromise. That's the paradox. Like, why is that? If we aren't experiencing such low inventory, why can't buyers find what they want? But more on that later when we tie buyers and sellers' perspectives together. Buyers see the current market as slim. They're making more compromises on what they want in order to get their foot in the door or to make the move within a certain time frame. And it's definitely less enticing to move up in the market if you're not finding exactly what you want, or for that matter, to downsize if the home isn't the perfect fit. That being said, home prices continue to climb, albeit at a very slow and steady pace. So again, from the buyer's perspective, they've been waiting for prices to flatline. They've been waiting for interest rates to drop significantly, and none of this is happening. So it seems a more attractive option to just hang out on the sideline. One of the major challenges I'm seeing for buyers right now, aside from the strange inventory selection we're experiencing, is the whole concept of making a contingent offer. Essentially, a buyer they have to sell their existing home in order to purchase the new home. So the purchase is contingent upon the sale of their exit home. And boy, have I seen so many of these scenarios recently. I am submitting them on behalf of my buyers and I am receiving them on my listings. So if it's so common, why is it then tough for the buyer? Well, because most buyers, they don't want to have their home under contract, the one that they're selling, with a finite date and not know where they will be moving to. And in this market, it can be an issue because the buyer, again, is struggling to find a home that they like enough to replace their existing home. Or perhaps the seller won't accept contingencies at all, and that does happen. Or the buyer is still struggling with the idea of jumping into the market altogether because of interest rates or timing. And so again, it goes back to inventory because there may not be the right home available at the right time when their home sells. I was recently out touring with some YouTube clients who found a home that they were ready to move on. It was a new build, but they need to sell their home back home in a different state. And this new builder or this builder will not take contingent offers. So they need to get their home on the market, get it under contract before they're even allowed to submit an acceptable offer to this builder. If that takes a couple of weeks to work through all of those steps, that one home that they really liked, it may already be pending with somebody else. So it can be really tricky when you're gambling on a timeline with contingent offers. But now on the flip side, I've recently had a contingent offer accepted on a new build where my buyer, who was also selling their home, which was contingent upon the sale of that buyer's home, needed an extended timeline in order to make all of the pieces fall into place. And we were able to successfully negotiate that extended close date on the new build so that my buyer had the time to complete the sale of her home, which again was based and only possible with the sale of her buyer's home. So lots of moving parts, to say the least. It was absolutely critical for this buyer to have a trusted advisor working on her behalf behind the scenes to make sure that we were meeting all of these milestones and that we were going to be able to keep this transaction moving forward. My advice to buyers right now is don't be afraid to jump in. Start looking now, even if you feel like you may not be ready for, say, 6 months from now. And I say this not to rush you. I say it because people are taking a bit longer to find the homes that they want. The sooner you start looking, the larger pool of homes you have to choose from. So not in a rush at the start, and you don't have to compromise and pick any home that might be available. So don't be afraid to pull the trigger either and be like, hey, I'm going to sell my home wherever it might be, and if I need to temporarily rent a home or stay in a VRBO until I find that right home, that is okay too. Yes, it's a hassle because you have to move multiple times, but you also shouldn't feel like you are pressured into compromising. I cannot stress enough the importance of having the right representation, a trusted advisor that listens to you and is willing to expand your horizon. Because I have clients who come up and they know they want a particular area, or they have to have a new build, or it has to be a particular builder. And I get that, but it's important to have somebody that is listening and willing to show you options that don't waste your time, but because as we are listening to what you're telling us, we realize that there may be areas, homes, builders out there that make more sense. And it's always good to be introduced to those additional opportunities in order to give you choice. If you are new to my channel, hi, my name is Erica Toffel, Global Real Estate Advisor with Group 1 Sotheby's International Realty. I specialize in helping you with any of your real estate needs. So send me a message or an email. My information is on the screen. And please be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you get notified each time I drop a new video. And if you're watching on your television screen, you can scan the QR code to contact me directly. So now let's shift our focus to the seller's experience. Let's frame our market from their perspective. The sellers, they still have a slight edge or advantage in the market action index, but it is very minimal at best. And I think sellers are still transitioning from that market euphoria that they experienced a few years ago. Here in Boise, we never had a significant price drop post-pandemic. Sellers are still struggling to be comfortable at the value that their home is at currently. It's not to say they don't have huge amounts of equity built into their homes, but they're needing to parlay that into a different home for themselves. And that may be a bit more expensive, or it just may mean that they want a significant down payment and they're struggling with finding that reasonable and competitive price for their own home. So like I said, our market is a median home price here in Idaho is still going up. It's almost 6% higher year over year from 2023, but we also have a 40% decrease between list price and where the homes are actually being sold. So what that means is that sellers are deciding that they want this higher price, but ultimately having to settle for something a little bit less. And that leads to longer days on market because buyers are not jumping in to overpay for homes. Now, the demand for homes is still very high. I always have active buyers at any given time on the hunt for their right home. So as I said when discussing the buyers, it's been a struggle to find many of them the right home. So then what types of properties are selling the fastest? Those that are at lower price points because of their affordability, new homes so that you have an existing warranty on that home and you're not having to replace major systems. But buyers are also being smarter, pickier, so that homes that are selling faster are the ones that are cleaned up and repaired and updated and staged. So what are the challenges that my sellers are facing? Well, just like the challenge for buyers, it's these contingent offers. It's hard to even want to accept an offer when it is contingent upon the sale of another home, especially when that other home might be in Oregon or California or Texas. But sellers also need to manage their expectations. Contingent offers are super common right now, and I don't see them going anywhere anytime soon. In order to sell your home, you may need to be okay with a contingent offer. Now, that doesn't mean that you take one blindly. Be sure that the offer, or rather the home that it's contingent upon, is already on the market. Even better if it's already pending. Best if it's already on the market, pending, and already past inspection and other contingencies that could cause it to fall through. So recently I had a seller that came to me, and this family had a finite time frame by which they needed to sell because they were moving overseas. And in order to register in that other country, they had to be completely closed out of any transactions occurring here in the United States. The problem was we couldn't put the house on the market right away because we were waiting on the kids to be out of school. So we had this 60-day window in order to get it under contract so that we could meet their deadlines. So we planned well in advance of our go live date. We scheduled movers to clear out the house the day the kids got out of school. We had the home cleaned, we had the carpets cleaned, we had it prepped, and handyman came through. We had beautiful photos taken, and it was all in preparation for this coming soon period where we were going to capitalize on the word getting out up front. It was very strategic and mapped out so that the day we went live, we were going to hit the ground running. And we were competitively priced, which was such a huge part of the pre-marketing package. Sure, we had done the research, we knew the comparables, we knew the market, we knew the season that we were in, which was the start of summer. Like, that's the busy season. So we wanted to be that one home that everyone stopped at first. And sure enough, within hours of hitting the market, we were under contract. It was a contingent offer, but the buyers were already under contract on their own home, and within days of acceptance, they were going to have inspection and appraisal deadlines removed, and we were going to be able to close within 30 days of going live, which was a whole 30 days ahead of schedule for my clients to finalize their move to the new country. So these stories, they definitely highlight my advice to sellers. We put in the work. We update what you can, clean the house so it's show ready, have it staged, have these beautiful photos taken and the video done. Expect your real estate advisor to have a plan, a marketing plan in place so that you're not just flying blindly out there in the market, and price it strategically to get your home sold. And please, 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 please keep an open mind to negotiations. Don't draw a line in the sand that you can't cross. Usually, when deals fall apart, it has less to do with the home itself, and it's all the other stuff that surrounds it, the emotions or timing or stuff, like material stuff in the home. Don't lose sight of the end goal. I'm curious, if you're someone selling your home, what would be your top priority to ensure a smooth and profitable sale? Share in the comments below. I would love to know whether there are more people out there that are worried about the bottom line or concerned that they're turning their home over to a new buyer that will ultimately love it and appreciate it as much as they do. So how would I summarize this whole market? How do I look at buyers and sellers, their differences, their similarities? Well, at the beginning of this video, I mentioned that there was enough inventory, but buyers were struggling to find the homes within that inventory. And it relates a little bit to what I would consider seller fatigue, because again, what I was mentioning with the sellers is they need to come in with their homes completely ready, and it needs to be cleaned, it needs to be updated, and sellers they're tired, they don't want to do it. And so even though there's enough inventory out there, the buyers have the opportunity, because the market is shifting more towards a balanced market, they have the opportunity to be pickier and more selective. Honestly, you have to remember that as a buyer and a seller, you're really on the same page. You're working toward the same goal. And I think that often gets lost in translation. Buyers and sellers are left to feel like they are competing. Who can win in negotiations or price, or again, some other factor that may not even be related to the home itself. And I think in the current market where, yes, prices are still going up 5%-ish per year, that buyers have to realize that they may not find that smoking deal on a home, but at the same time, sellers need to realize that they aren't going to sell their home for that exorbitant amount over asking price. Of course, the number one question I get asked all the time is, where do I see the market headed based on these current market trends? And of course, it's always hard to predict specifically and say, oh, we're going to have huge growth and prices will skyrocket again. Nobody knows for sure, but a couple of things to keep in mind is that if interest rates do drop by even 1 percentage point, so if we get below 6% and we end up back in the 5 range, demand, gosh, that'll just open the floodgates for demand. And even though right now we have decent inventory will get squeezed if interest rates drop. And then what happens? Prices increase. And then 2026 will roll around and people will be like, oh, if only I had bought back in 2024 when I was first looking. Honestly, I feel like Boise remains a hot market. We see continued growth in housing and in industry, and businesses are taking notice and expanding to the Treasure Valley. So long as that keeps taking place, you'll continue to see growth here in the Boise real estate market. For more videos about Boise, Idaho real estate and its surrounding areas, click on one of the videos on the screen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.